Yeah, this is me in detention, in handcuffs like a criminal. Or should I say I'm a criminal? Just so you know, I was raised from a good home. So you are probably wondering how I got here. Okay, this is my story. My name is Ejiofor, but my parents preferred to call me AJ. I was raised in a family with so much love. My father was doing so well, and I and my younger sister Ada were well taken care of. My mother never had to work because what my father earned was more than enough for the family. My father was the managing director of a family business which was handed over to him by his grandfathers. The Osigwe family had a business that had catered for their needs from generations, and when it got to my father's turn to manage it, he added some class to the business since he was more learned than his predecessors. Osigwe Furnitures started doing deliveries with our own bosses. More branches were opened and there was more expansion. The business has never witnessed such success before now. Like they say, that success had so many relations. I grew up with so many of my father's relations around us, but my favorite was Uncle Izu. He was my father's immediate younger brother. Uncle Izu was so nice to our family, especially my mom. We were always happy to see him around. He was deputy, or more like an assistant to my father, in the family business. So he came periodically for reconciliations. We attended one of the best primary schools in Nnewi. Life was indeed very good. The family business was doing very well, but still some people were not happy with my father because he blocked their chances of embezzlement like they used to do before. When the government decided to build 10 new schools in the local government, my father won the contract to supply furnitures. It was the biggest contract they have ever had in the history of their doing business. Every member of the family sang the praises of my father, and even we, his immediate family, were so proud of his achievements. Few months after government paid the first installment, my father fell ill. At first, it started as a mild headache and stomach ache, then later became severe. One night, it became very unbearable, so he was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. Even as a kid, I prayed for him. I loved my father so much and I didn't want anything to happen to him. Gradually, things became worse and my father's health deteriorated. I won't forget February 16th in a hurry, the day our lives changed. My father had requested for pepper soup himself, and myself and my younger sister followed our mom to see him. He was managing to talk before things changed, and the doctor and nurses asked us to leave the ward immediately. After what seemed like eternity, the doctor invited my mom. From a distance, I heard the doctor say, "We tried our best, but we lost him." My mom screamed and passed out. That day was a turning point in our lives. The whole of Nnewi mourned the demise of my father. The death of my father, Mr. Lieutenant Osigwe, was indeed a big loss to his community. He was given a befitting burial. His burial was attended by dignitaries, both in the business world and from the government. 3 weeks after the burial, we heard a knock on the door. When Ada, my younger sister, opened, it was Uncle Izu. She ran up to him like she used to do before, but this time, she was welcomed with a stern look. Uncle Izu informed my mom that the house belonged to the Osigwe family business and not for my father, and that since he is now the new MD, that we had to vacate the house. He said he was giving us 3 months to move out. My mom couldn't believe her ears. Could this be the same very caring Uncle Izu, she thought? It must be a prank, we all thought. First, my mom said that the house was built in my father's name and that the documents were in his name. Uncle Izu left furiously but promised to be back. 2 weeks after, we came back from church to find the whole room ransacked and the house document was gone. Someone has entered the house in our absence to steal the documents. My mom cried and cried. Uncle Izu made life unbearable for us. True to his words, in 3 months, he came with thugs to throw us out of the house by force. We cried, but help came from nowhere. There was nothing we could do. Uncle Izu took over the house and my father's 3 cars. We had to move in with a family friend. Life became difficult. My mom reported the matter to Elder Ogbonnaya, that was the eldest in the Osigwe clan, and there was nothing he could do about it, as it seems they all feared Izu. My mom, who had never worked before then, had to look for what to do to keep body and soul together and to train us, as help was not coming from anywhere again. Auntie Ngozi, my mom's younger sister, came to pick Ada to live with her. She said she couldn't take me as I had to stay back to assist my mom. My mom started selling plantain in the popular Ozuda market in Nnewi. My mom, a whole lolo Patricia Osigwe, became an ordinary plantain seller. Well, we had to accept life the way it came. Uncle Izu did not stop making life unbearable for us. My father's 3 plots of land in Otolo was seized. He fenced it as if it was his own. My mother had to confront him that day. She went to his house. Izuchukwu, what have I and my children done to you that you choose to treat us this way? Why do you hate us so much? Your own elder brother's wife and children. Uncle Izu laughed, holding a glass of wine. Patricia, he called my mom. I am only following the tradition, but you see, I am ready to release those things to you on one condition. My mom asked what the condition was, and Uncle Izu continued. You know I have always liked you. He smiled shamelessly. I felt my brother Lutana didn't deserve you. Marry me and I will make you happy again. My mom was surprised, to say the least. Marry you? Izuchukwu, do you realize I'm your late brother's widow? My mom asked him. And so what? Uncle Izu replied. Lutana is dead and gone, and that is the bitter truth. My mom rained curses on Uncle Izu before taking her leave. As she left, Uncle Izu said to her, whether you like it or not, you will be my wife. Despite all odds, I had written the JAMB exams and passed. I was so excited. I ran home immediately to break the good news to my beloved mom. When I got home, she wasn't around. Mama Chinonso, our neighbor, informed me she was summoned by the elders. Certainly, I knew it had to be Elder Ogbonaya's place. I rushed down there. When I got there, I could see Uncle Izu and other elders telling my mom the most absurd words. The elders said that based on tradition that my mom must marry Uncle Izu. My mom tried to protest, but she was cut short by Mazi Roha. What is your problem, young woman? Should the tradition be bent just to favor you? You will marry Izu. That is final. I watched my mom being bullied and compelled against her will, and she cried helplessly, unable to help herself. I watched at a distance, unable to help my mother. That day, I felt miserable. Finally, Elder Ogbonnaya gave my mom 2 months to move in with Uncle Izu, or she will be beaten by the village youths and banished for going against the tradition. It was obvious their decisions had been influenced. I was sure money has exchanged hands. My mom fell on her knees at the pronouncement. I simply walked away because it was heartbreaking to see my mom go through such humiliation, and I couldn't do anything. I gained admission into one of the universities in the East. I felt so much joy. My mom sold some of her Hollandaise wrappers for me to pay my fees. Uncle Izu was not interested in our welfare, as he said whatever we did, with our lives was none of his business. The day I left for school was indeed emotional. My mom held my hands as she cried, telling me how she will miss me so much. In her exact words, "AJ, my son, before you return for holidays, I would have been sold to your wicked uncle. Don't let it affect you. I guess this is my destiny. I will be fine. Just do well in school and make me proud." With those words, we both burst into uncontrollable tears. My second week in university, I met a beautiful girl from a rich home called Bianca. We started off as reading partners, but later became very close friends. Bianca was indeed God sent. She treated me like a brother and friend, paying for my textbooks, handouts, and food most times. I excelled in my academics. This made Bianca very close to me. One day, as we sat at the love garden, we discussed about so many things. She told me about her family. When I told her about mine and what I had passed through, Bianca cried. She couldn't believe I had been through so much and still kept my cool. One day, as I was coming out of the library, a guy looking very weird walked up to me and asked me to leave Bianca as his boss was interested in her. He spoke with so much authority. This got me scared. When I got to my room, I shared the experience with my roommate, James, who people always refer to as James Bond. James was a 300 level student in sociology, soft-spoken and gentle, but he was well respected, and I wondered why. After telling James, he smiled and told me that such could happen because I do not belong to a family. I did not understand initially, but later I knew James was asking me to join their brotherhood. I refused as I said it was against my upbringing. The strange guy kept disturbing me and threatening me, and James kept convincing me to belong. Reluctantly, I told Bianca about it. Bianca was shocked I was going through such intimidation and decided to involve her parents. But I refused and I told her I could handle it. But instead, I started avoiding Bianca, who later noticed. The bullying continued. One day, 3 boys had chased me as I stepped out of class. I ran as fast as I could. I decided to go home and take a break. The intimidation was becoming too much. When I got home, I felt safe from all the multi-threats and bullying. I had to go visit my mother, who was now living with Uncle Izu. From the gate of Uncle Izu's house, I heard so much noise. I peeped from the window and I saw Uncle Izu beating my mom. I ran to help, but Uncle Izu pushed me away. I took my mom to the hospital. On the hospital bed, my mom revealed to me that is how he beats and violates her almost daily. I clutched my fist in fury with several crazy thoughts going through my mind. I ran away back to the house, confused of what to do. I blamed death for everything that is happening. If my father was still alive, this mess wouldn't have been happening to us. Emotionally, I went through my father's late box, looking at his pictures as I cried. Suddenly, I saw a red diary. I opened it out of curiosity, and it was my father's name that was written on it. The contents I saw left me with mouth agape. My father had documented his last days, how Uncle Izu had threatened him, how he had suggested that the funds from government be diverted, and how he had felt his sickness was not ordinary, since the sickness had started after Izu visited him in the office. He also said that Elder Ogbonnaya could not be trusted. I was convinced Uncle Izu knew about the death of my father. The contract from the government was the bone of contention, and Uncle Izu must have killed my father to hijack the contract. I made up my mind. I have to make Uncle Izu pay for his wickedness. I have to make the elders pay for their conspiracy. I was very determined that day. I traveled back to school. Immediately I walked into my room. I saw James drinking beer. Then I said to him, I am ready to join the brotherhood.